There goes Rusty. Off with the new owner. His name is also Chris. You can tell he's being so careful. It's so funny. I remember first driving the Cybertruck. Oh, he had plenty of room. I did the same thing. The front, it's you can't tell when you're in there, especially when it's new. You can't tell that you have so much room, but oh, he'll have to get used to it. Goodbye, Rusty. You were pretty awesome. Definitely gonna miss the Cybertruck. I think I'll be back. All right, y'all. By the time you're watching this, Rusty is gone. It's very sad. I made a video talking about thinking about selling the Cybertruck. I wasn't 100% at that time, but I was maybe like 80% of the way there. And I am going through with it. So I want to talk about, again, why, like kind of my final reasons, and then kind of how this transpired, how I got it sold. And now it's not, I don't know. So like as you own something like this thing is awesome. It's really amazing, but it had problems, as I talked about in my previous video. And as you're dealing with those problems on the daily, you're daily driving it, you're like, oh man, this is annoying, like whatever. But then when you actually go and you pick up, you know, the replacement, the new ride, the new Model Y, which is also a fantastic vehicle. I mean, it is just great. But it's no Cybertruck. That's what I keep saying. Everyone's like, oh man, you sold the Cybertruck. What do you think? And I'm like, hey, you know, the new Model Y is really nice. It's definitely not a Cybertruck. So I talked to Tesla, and I'm sure you saw like Kyle Connor's video, and a lot of people are getting their Cybertrucks bought back. And I was like, you know what? I think I want to try that because I've had a lot of problems with this and a lot of warranty work. Now, it's never left me stranded. I think that is number one, a big part of this. And man, it's a crazy glare here. Hold on. There we go. That's not good. What is the sun doing? Okay, so it never left me stranded. There was never a time where something on it broke and, all right, this is much better. This is Cybertruck's better angle anyway. So there was never a time in all of that warranty work where the Cybertruck actually left me stranded. I did have problems with both motors though. So first the rear motor, the inverter went out, which was kind of like a known recall, you know, that Tesla kind of preemptively told early Cybertruck owners, like, you need to get this recalled. And it's one of those things, like, you're like, yeah, I'll go do it. And I didn't do it. And the rear motor inverter went out. The rear motor completely stopped working, but I was still able to drive. The negative with that is the top speed was 65 miles per hour, which on Michigan highways is just not safe. So I did get it taken in. But again, the point is it didn't stop driving. I was able to drive it. Then on the way home from our road trip, so that happened right before we went to Florida in the Cybertruck for the second time. On the way home from that road trip, we got an error message that said, I don't remember what it said, but something about like power may be reduced, check something. So it turns out there was something wrong with the oil in the front motor. Yes, Tesla motors do have oil. It's just that everything in there is so clean that you never need to change it. I mean, I guess don't say never. Maybe you could change it after, you know, 1,000,000 miles or something. But in general, you don't change the oil in these motors. So I make an appointment with Tesla service, like, hey, I got this error, I don't know what's going on. They say, all right, you gotta come in, we're gonna change the oil, you know, in your front motor. And I'm like, that's weird. At the same time, other Tesla employees on the internet are saying like, oh, this is just a software issue, don't worry about it. Tesla service is telling me, no, you gotta bring it in. So I ended up bringing it in. They did change the oil. It was cool. There was like this much tiny little bit of oil in there. And it was neat to at least see that. And then again, it didn't stop driving. I did have slightly reduced power at the upper speeds, like above 60 or 70 miles per hour, but it still worked. It got us home from the road trip and all that. Outside of that, there was a lot of trim issues. As you know, this piece came off once for me, just right here, a bolt came off, a nut came off of a bolt, and this was like flapping in the wind and bent, and they replaced that a long time ago. This needs to be replaced again. It still hasn't been done. This window shattered. There was a lot. I documented it on the channel. I don't really think I need to go through every little bit. If you wanna see those videos, just search my channel. I have specific videos talking about all the problems I had. So with that in mind, and with the fact that there's still warranty work that needs to be done on this very early VIN Cybertruck, and seeing that so many people were getting them bought back, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try. Why wouldn't I try, at least? Because, you know, Tesla charges you for mileage. I don't know exactly what they charge you, but I have over 20,000 miles. They would charge me, you know, 50 cents per mile I put on it or something, and pay me the rest back in the Cybertruck. I talked to my local service center, and they were like, you know, there's really no negative to requesting a buyback. And, you know, I was thinking Tesla sometimes gets crazy with people and they'll ban them from buying vehicles or whatever. And I didn't want to be banned. So I kind of made sure, like, is Tesla going to be mad at me if I request a buyback? Is this something they like look down upon? And it was basically like, no, you know, you've had enough problems that maybe you should ask, but you haven't really had enough time in service that it's automatically going to be granted. And so this is kind of the first thing I learned and what I want to share on here. When I had all my problems, the different things, of course, not the motors, but any of the other stuff, I just waited and I waited and I waited. I never got it fixed because I was like, well, I'm going to wait because I know that there's other things and I'm going to get it all done at the same time. So that was convenient for me at the time, but it didn't reflect, at least in Tesla's service records, the like actual problems, the amount of time I spent on these problems that I actually did. So from Tesla's side, they're like, oh, well, you only had it in service, you know, X amount of days. That's really not that bad. Whereas I had built up a bunch of issues and then brought it in for service and they were able to do a bunch of things in a couple of days. So I guess like on one side, yeah, it was only out of commission. It was out of my hands for a certain amount of time, which is a good thing. But on the other end, that doesn't accurately reflect kind of the issues that I had. So my advice would be, if you have problems, just take it in every time. Even though it's inconvenient, if these piles stack up enough, that might be something you need kind of documented and recorded over time. So either way, whatever. Tesla denied the buyback request, which was a bit disappointing, but I wasn't surprised. I'm not gonna lie. I figured they were gonna say no, but again, it was worth a try. So before we go through and I talk about actually selling it, let me tell you some of the main reasons that I sold it. So number one, as I said in the other video, was financial. If I sell it now, even at the 50% depreciation or whatever it is, it's a little less than 50%, I can end up kind of coming out ahead because I had sponsors. That is something that of course most people aren't gonna have. It's not gonna be a factor in their car purchasing or selling decisions, but I'm just telling you kind of my main things and why I did this. And a lot of people DM'd me about, Foundation Series back in the day. And my answer was, well, you know what? If you have $1 million to throw away, then yeah, I would easily buy the Cybertruck. If you're kind of budgeting, you're not sure you want to spend that much, Tesla already told us that they're going to drop the price $20,000. You might as well wait, let the price drop $20,000 to be the non-Foundation series, and then possibly even get a better Cybertruck, right? Built better, which did end up being true. The newer Cybertrucks, from what I hear, I've talked to a lot of owners that have later VINs, 0 issues, no rattles, no squeaks, nothing being recalled. So it did benefit to wait a little longer, of course. But it's always kind of a crapshoot with Tesla. You never know if things are going to get more rare and more expensive, or if the demand is going to go down, or they're going to lower prices, or they're going to mass produce better than they have been, or what's going to happen. So for me, the best decision at the time was, of course, to just buy it, do everything I could do with it, make videos, and then, kind of see what happens a year later, which is where we are. We're over a year later now. Next, probably my biggest decision, which I did not talk a lot about before, was honestly full self-driving, which some people are going to find crazy. Some people don't even want to use full self-driving. They don't care about it. But the full self-driving in the Cybertruck was missing enough features and just was plain worse enough compared to other Tesla vehicles, mostly the Model Y, that on the daily, again, this is my daily driver. I was driving almost 100 miles a day in this thing. It got to the point where I just couldn't stand it anymore. Now, driving the Cybertruck manually is amazing. I love driving it. The steer-by-wire is insane. The comfort, the suspension, all of it, the speed, the power, it is great to drive. But I like to use full self-driving. I like it to drive me around. I like to kind of experiment with it and play with it. It doesn't have summon or smart summon. These are things I've talked about before. And it just got to that point where I was like, look, I've waited over a year. The first 6 months of this truck, it didn't have basic autopilot. It didn't have full self-driving. It had nothing but traffic-aware cruise control. I dealt with that. We're now, 8 months after the release of full self-driving for the Cybertruck, and it still is missing so many features, and it is so far behind in just the way it turns, the way it accelerates, the way it brakes. The braking has been mostly fixed, but in the beginning, it would emergency brake all the time because it would slow down so slowly. It would get too close to vehicles in front of it and then make itself emergency brake. It was crazy. So that was another big decision. If you think that's crazy, it is what it is. But for me, that was a big part of this. Now, another part of this is, like I said, I drive a lot. And I was noticing the lack of efficiency in the Cybertruck. Now, again, compared to a gas truck, it's super efficient. Compared to a Model Y, it uses almost double the energy. And when I drive 100 miles a day or all the driving I'm doing, I really notice that in both my electric bill and just the amount of kilowatt hours, the amount of charging I actually have to do for this thing. Now you can include that in the cost category, like the overall cost of the vehicle. And then of course, things like tires are going to be more expensive for something like this. But overall, the amount of charging I had to do, the cost of the charging actually was noticing compared to switching from a Model Y. Now, another way that you can actually help with the charging costs, whether it's your Cybertruck or your Model Y, or if you don't even have an EV and you just want to lower your electricity bill, today's sponsor Ecoflow can help you with that. Imagine if electric vehicle charging didn't cost a thing. That's where the Ecoflow Delta Pro Ultra comes in. If I had this set up earlier, I probably could have powered my Cybertruck for free, or at least reduced the cost to charge it by a significant amount. It's not just a backup battery, it's a whole home energy solution. You get up to 7.2 kilowatts of output. That's enough to run literally every appliance, including your central air conditioning, or dryer, or you could fully charge an EV in just a few hours with that amount of power. It stores anywhere from 6 kilowatt hours all the way up to 90 kilowatt hours depending on your exact needs and how many stackable units you want to use. Over 90 kilowatt hours is larger than a Tesla Model 3 or Model Y battery. The Ecoflow Delta Pro Ultra also accepts up to 5.6 kilowatts of solar input, meaning you could recharge an entire day's energy in just 1 hour with solar alone. Throw in their smart home 2 panel and it gets even better. This system will auto switch when the grid goes down, so your house stays powered and you don't even notice. This functionality means you could get all the benefits of the Tesla Powerwalls without having to spend the premium that the Powerwalls cost or pay for the difficult labor-intensive install that a Tesla Powerwall requires. With the smart home panel too, you can control which circuits get priority. Critical stuff will get the power first, and this can stretch out your power for even longer in case of a grid outage. And for electric vehicle owners, this includes their Power Pulse 9.6 kilowatt EV charger. With this, you could charge your Tesla just from sunlight. This is how you could cut up to $3,600 a year off your energy bill. Real savings, real power. And this unit could pay for itself in just 2.6 years. That's 4 times faster than a Tesla Powerwall. Ecoflow thought of everything. You can track everything in real time with their app, your usage, savings, and backup status. It even preps for storms, fully recharging 12 hours before severe weather hits. And it's built to last. LFP batteries, 10-year lifespan, and IP54 weather resistance. Plus, compared to Powerwall or Generac, installation is easier, cheaper, and way more flexible. Your sub panel doesn't even need to be in the same room as the batteries. Most installs are done in less than a day. So while I might be parting ways with my Cybertruck, I won't miss the charging costs. And if you're driving electric or thinking about going off-grid or driving an electric vehicle, the Ecoflow Delta Pro Ultra is definitely the way to go. Check out my link below in the description to get the best deal on the Ecoflow Delta Pro Ultra and start turning your electric bills to zero. Thank you to Ecoflow for sponsoring this video. And then the warranty work and things like that, having to go in all the time. And it's so funny because Cybertruck is such an emotional vehicle. People all over the place get either so angry about it or so happy about it or so sad that I'm selling it. And the story of this Cybertruck is actually very similar to the story of our Model X we used to have. It was an amazing car. We both loved it. My wife loved it. She used it, as her daily driver more than I did. But it was going into service like every other month because something would come loose or something would be creaking or something like that. The door would, one of the Falcon Wing doors would have a problem. And it just got to the point where we're like, look, we spent all this money in this vehicle. We could move on to another, a Model Y that's half the price, not have all these issues, and still have 90% of the Tesla benefits. And that's kind of what's happening here too. I moved to the Model Y because I had some Tesla credits I could use to purchase it. It is half the price of a Cybertruck. The features are better, and supposedly it will have less maintenance. Our 2023 Model Y, I think, went in for something literally one time. Like, we just replaced the windshield, which obviously has nothing to do with Tesla, it cracked. But besides that, I think there was one single time in the 2 years we've owned it that it's needed service. So that's the experience I'm hoping for with this new 2026 Model Y that I picked up to be my daily driver. Now, let's actually talk about selling the Cybertruck and kind of the process I went through with that. So now, interesting enough, Tesla will not buy this from you. So a few days later, Tesla actually did start accepting Cybertruck trade-ins, only for Foundation Series as of now, which is still weird. But yeah, I'm gonna leave this part in because it kind of relates to why and how I did everything. But yeah, as of now, Foundation Series, Tesla will give you a quote. It's not very good. It's pretty similar to Carvana, and only if it's Foundation Series. If you have a non-Foundation Series Cybertruck, Tesla still doesn't want it. So you can go to Tesla's website at any time, and you can put in the VIN of your vehicle, whether it's a Model Y or a Ford or whatever, and they'll give you a trade-in estimate. It's not always super accurate for when you go to actually do the trade-in, but for me, it's always been to the dollar what they said when I did the actual trade-in. For Cybertruck, you put in your Cybertruck VIN, you put in the mileage, and then you get a message like, yeah, we will, update you with your quote. And then you get an email from Tesla that says, we're not currently accepting Cybertruck trade-ins. How weird is that? That Tesla themselves does not want to buy a Cybertruck. And so that had me just a little bit worried about reselling. Now, I talk about the financial stuff and all that. If I wanted, I could keep it. It's just kind of makes more financial sense, and it's smarter to move to a Model Y for me for a lot of reasons. But then I started to get into like, whoa, what if I can't sell this? If Tesla doesn't want it, where else could I sell it? So I called a local dealership and I said, hey, I'm kind of thinking of selling my Cybertruck. Would you guys want to take a look? And they're like, yeah, could you bring it in? They sounded so excited. They're like, could you bring it in? We want to see it. And I'm like, look, I need a certain amount of money. I don't really want to bring it in there, you know, if you can't agree to that. So I told them, and they said, okay, send us some pictures of the inside and outside, whatever. So I sent them pictures, and I was like, if it's, you know, looks good to you, I'll come in, you can check it out, like no problem. They're not that far away. And then they texted me back, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes later, and they go, yeah, we checked with our, I don't know, 73 dealers in the network, and none of them have room for a Cybertruck right now. And I was like, wow, that's kind of crazy. You think they would want a Cybertruck on the lot to at least, you know, maybe attract some attention or bring in some other customers, or they could, you know, sell it. So then after that, I went to Carvana, put in my VIN. I've sold to Carvana before. Their prices sometimes are really good, sometimes they're really bad. For the Cybertruck, I thought it was fine. I posted those on X, the amount they offered around 50,000, a little more than that. And considering a brand new Tesla Cybertruck is 80,000, but then you get the tax credit, so really it's 72,000. You know, it's not like a Cybertruck with 20,000 miles is going to be $70,000. That doesn't make any sense. I figured 50,000 was a little low, but of course Carvana has to resell it. So all that considered, I scheduled the appointment, and I was like, well, that's not very good, but I'm going to schedule the appointment. Just let it sit there for a while, because you can schedule it far out, and they keep dropping the price of what they offer. And then if I want to cancel it or whatever, I can. Well, while I was waiting, a subscriber named Chris actually DM'd me and said, hey, I want your Cybertruck. I watched your video about why you want to sell it, and I would like to buy it. Now, I was pretty surprised, because he just watched a video of me talking for 20 minutes, almost like you're watching now, of me kind of complaining about it and saying everything that's wrong with it and why I want to sell it. And I said to him, like, okay, you watched that full video? He's like, yep. We talked on the phone. I told him every single thing that's ever happened to this Cybertruck. I mean, to be honest, this is probably the most well-documented car he's ever going to buy in his life, because I made a video about literally everything that's ever happened to it. I sent him pictures, you know, I told him, and so he's coming tomorrow. He's coming tomorrow. This video is going to be posted way later, though. He's coming tomorrow to pick it up. And it's going to be his. So it's still going to be kind of in the Tesla community, which is kind of cool. He is active on X. I'll put his handle up here, or I already did. So you can follow him and follow along, and we can still follow kind of the story of Rusty and this early VIN. It's like 2100 VIN Cybertruck Foundation Series. Now everything will transfer to him. I'm going to give him all the accessories I have that either came with the Foundation Series, or any accessories I bought, or anything even from Joa. He's getting a lot of Joa accessories with it that I can't use anymore, and he'll love in his Cybertruck. I did actually wash it already. It was perfectly clean, and it's been sitting here for like 3 days, and it hasn't moved. It hasn't moved a centimeter, and it's filthy again. So I don't know, he'll probably like that. But either way, Chris is super excited to pick it up, and it does make me feel a little bit better that the Cybertruck is going to someone that really likes it and really cares and really wants it. He was considering a few different Cybertruck options, but then when he saw mine, when he saw I was thinking of selling it, and he reached out and we talked a bunch, and you know, he was able to see pictures and all of that, he decided this was kind of the best deal that he could get. It is going to come with full self-driving. The Foundation Series came with that. I called Tesla and made sure that that's going to transfer with it. They gave me 100%. They even talked to corporate, said 100% full self-driving moves with the Foundation Series. He will not be getting the lifetime premium connectivity though, so that's something that came with Foundation Series, is lifetime premium connectivity. That will be $100 a year if he wants that, or of course he just doesn't have to subscribe to that if he doesn't want to. But that's the only thing out of all of this that's not going to come with it. And another perk I'm giving Chris when he picks this up, I'm going to let him leave it on my Tesla account as long as he wants. He lives in North Carolina, so he's going from Michigan to North Carolina, and then he said he's going on a road trip down to Florida. So I told him he can keep the Cybertruck on my Tesla account as long as he wants, because I have a lot of free supercharger miles. So he'll get free charging for a long time. He's gonna get probably a few thousand miles of free supercharging when he first is picking this up for me. So that's another kind of perk I was able to pass his way. So the first day driving to work in this new Model Y was a little sad. Actually, now that the Cybertruck is leaving, all of those issues that I complained about or was dealing with on the daily that I was frustrated with, actually, you know, you start to convince yourself like, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal, it wasn't that bad. The Cybertruck is so awesome. Again, this is an amazing car. There's no way I would complain about being able to, you know, being lucky enough to be able to drive something like this. But again, when you compare, right, comparison's the thief of joy. When you compare this new Model Y to that Cybertruck, the interior's smaller, the features are just not as rich. The screen is smaller. That's actually a big thing I'm noticing that I'm kind of missing already, is the bigger screen that the Cybertruck has. The steer-by-wire is definitely missed as well, although FSD in this is doing like 99.9% of my driving, whereas in the Cybertruck it was maybe doing like 96% of my driving. I can, you know, out of park. I'm parked, I press one button on the screen, I don't even need to use the steering wheel. It'll get all of my way to my destination. Maybe I park it I've actually been using auto park, or maybe it'll park itself, which is pretty rare for the current version of full self-driving. But it's just funny how that happens. You know, as soon as I start driving this, no, the Cybertruck, it's amazing. And it really is an amazing vehicle. And honestly, I do hope to drive it again one day. I am excited to see what Tesla does with the refresh Model X as well. That would be kind of cool to have a Y and an X again. And you know, Stephanie with the kids could be driving that X on the daily, although she's not as excited. She's happy with her, you know, 2023 Model Y. But I do have a full video talking about this new Model Y and, you know, the features I picked and why I did. So make sure you check that out. I'll link it up above. Overall, I'm really gonna miss the Cybertruck. It is an amazing vehicle. It is by far the best vehicle I've ever owned. And I think it is the best vehicle for me that I could ever own that exists as of today anyway. With that said, this is the right decision for now for me. But I hope maybe one day I can hop into a Cybertruck again and have it be my daily driver.